Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. I am Mama Oliver and I am here to support your healing, growth, and spiritual journey. And so thanks so much for being here. Today we are going to, in this video, we're going to talk about triggers. And I know that there's a lot of discussions around triggers and what causes triggers and how do you heal from emotional triggers, or the fact that how do you avoid them, how do you not let them control you or control your behavior or your reactions. And I'm going to give you today in this video a bit of a different take on triggers and why actually being triggered is a good thing for us. And so triggers really come from a deep place within us where something happens and around us, or something happens to us, or people do something to us and our body actually responds, right? And so that can be, for me, it's like my gut usually feels like tight and I feel a lot of sort of anxiety within my gut, and my entire being just feels off. But it can, just show up for you in being angry or being sad or wanting to lash out, wanting to respond to all of the flurries of emotions that come through, wanting to attack or just be really, really upset and stay very, very affected by whatever has happened that has caused that trigger, right? And so that's why there is a lot of discussion around, how do you come back from being triggered, or how do you sort of avoid being triggered? And all of those things are true and make sense. But my approach here for all of you, and what I'm going to be discussing with you in today's video, is that being triggered and feeling triggered is actually a great thing for us, because it is letting us know that there is something within us that hasn't been worked through and that needs to be paid attention to, right? And it's usually caused by some sort of, childhood trauma or childhood experience or wounding or a traumatic incident or event that we go through, right? That really sits within our system, especially if we haven't processed it, especially if we haven't worked through it and healed through it. It sits within our system, in our subconscious, and when something happens that not necessarily has to be fully similar or the same type of event, but that subconsciously feels somewhat similar, we are then triggered, right? And we then feel all of those different emotions or physical reactions. And what I'm here to say is that is the moment where we have the opportunity to really dig deep into why we are being triggered in that moment, right? What about that experience or what has just happened do we think has caused us to feel triggered and to get triggered? And it is in that process that we can really start to get to know ourselves a little bit more and to understand what affects us and why that might be. And so I want to talk through with you about what are the 3 things that we can do in the moment that we are triggered and that we feel that physical or emotional response, to help us dive a little bit deeper into why that is happening. And so the first thing is, as soon as we feel triggered and what that might feel like, and again, that is very different for all of us, right? For me, it's very much in my gut area, and I just feel nervous and anxious right away. I may feel a bit like crying and just feel upset. Others of you might just feel really angry or bothered, or like you want to run away or you want to attack the person or whatever's happening, right? So it's very different for all of us, and that takes some time to pay attention to. But as soon as you feel a reaction to what someone has done or said to you that is triggering, it is wonderful to try, and this is not easy, right? This takes practice, to try to stop in that moment and say, okay, I feel a bit triggered right now, right? I'm feeling triggered. I'm feeling a reaction. I'm feeling like there's something that within me has been affected by what has just happened. And so, it's important to take a deep breath, really take a deep breath, and calm down our nervous system in that moment. Because as soon as we're triggered, we are now very activated. We're activated on many, many levels. And so if we take the time to take a step back, take a nice deep breath, a really good deep belly breath, and I actually have some videos around breath and breathing really, really well, and like filling up your belly in order to calm your nervous system down. Then we have sort of dissipated that activation, and now we can kind of think through, okay, what is this? What is this trigger that's making me feel sad, nervous, anxious, angry, abandoned, left out, right? What is it? What are the feelings that are coming up? And it's so important for us to really pay attention to that and connect to that, because Soul Family, I am here really to help all of you understand the importance of self-awareness and getting to know yourself. Getting to know what is happening within your mind and your system throughout life that is letting you know that it's something that you need to work through, because that really is the beginning of establishing a really good practice to take care of yourself and build up to true self-love. And once you connect to yourself and you really love yourself and you understand yourself and you know yourself, you have no idea the capabilities and the possibilities that are out there in your life. So step one is, again, try to stop, take a deep breath or multiple deep breaths. And I'll show you really how to do that in my other breath video. And calm down your nervous system so that you're able to really center yourself and really think about where you are, and step into step two, which is start evaluating and reflecting on what is it that this trigger is actually making me feel. What is the emotion that's coming up right now? Sad, mad, anxious, right? What is it? And then step three is ask yourself and try to see if you can figure out why that trigger exists, right? If it's making me feel sad, why might that be it? Like, why might that be the emotion that it's bringing up for me? Why am I feeling sad? Someone just did something to me. Why am I feeling sad about it? Why is this trigger happening? For example, for me, because I went through childhood trauma, I had a lot of feelings of low self-esteem and low self-worth, and really felt like I didn't belong in any environment. I didn't belong in groups. I didn't belong just anywhere. And I did a lot of just being by myself for a long time, most of my life, right? And so if something were to happen where there's a group of people that, decided to, do something after work, like an event, right? And for whatever reason I wasn't invited, or that would trigger me. And I know now, after being on my journey of just doing a lot of work, that the reason why that triggered me is that it was once again opening up the wound due to my childhood trauma of feeling like I didn't belong, right? And so here's that trigger, and that because it's that wound that's there. And so it gets opened up again, it gets triggered. And so now I know what that's about. But for a long time in my life, I never really wanted to be part of a group. I always felt like I wasn't, because really on a subconscious level, I was carrying this lack of self-worth, lack of belonging, and the limiting belief that nobody wanted me in their group anyway, right? And so when you're carrying all of that due to trauma, due to wounds that you really haven't worked through, anything that's similar and that looks and feels like the original trauma that you've been through is going to trigger you. And so that's why triggers are so great, because, and I know that sounds counterintuitive, I know it sounds like it doesn't make sense. What do you mean trigger is great? Like, now I'm upset and mad and angry and anxious and whatever. And yes, absolutely. But our emotions and what comes up for us are giving us a ton of information that we can use to get to know ourselves, to get to know what parts of us are still in a condition that we need to work through and that we need to nurture and take care of. That is why it's important to tap into our triggers when they happen and not run away from them, and not just stay in that sad, angry, anxious, disappointed emotion, but really explore and be curious. And I do want to let all of you know that this healing journey, this growth journey, this spiritual journey that we're all on, and we're all on it at different levels, it really is all about getting to know ourselves, getting to understand ourselves, and being curious about our responses and our reactions to things. Instead of just, blaming the other person and saying, oh, well, that person told me off and like I'm upset, right? Or that person didn't invite me to their party and that, and sure, I'm not excusing people from sometimes not doing the right thing and being mean, right? Like, it happens. We're all human beings and everyone has their stuff, and people will do things that, sometimes they're not very nice. But it's also very important for us to look within and really get curious about why we are responding in the ways that we are responding, why we are being triggered, why our bodies and our systems are getting activated, because it almost always has something to do with a wound or a trauma or just a bad experience that we've been through before that we have not yet worked through. And so, that is my little tidbit today about triggers. I will keep talking about this on this channel. It is very, very much about these types of things. How do we get to know ourselves? How do we understand why things happen and why we react a certain way? And the best things to do in order to heal, grow, and continue on our spiritual journeys. Thanks so much for joining me. If you liked this content, please make sure that you like this video. I will continue to make some content related to all of this. Thank you so much, Soul Family, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye-bye.